first up, we're gonna get started on the bacon. Now, we wanna get started on the bacon because we're gonna use that bacon fat to cook the rest of the ingredients to give that bacon flavor throughout the whole dish, which is gonna be an absolute dream. So I've got my pan here, and this pan is cold. I do not preheat a pan when I'm making bacon. Whether I'm doing it in the oven or on the stove, I always add my bacon into a cold pan. Basically what's gonna happen is this cold pan, as it slowly heats up and gets going, it's gonna slowly allow that fat in the bacon to render out, and then it's gonna crisp up. So it's gonna give you more fat to work with later, and it's gonna give you really nice meaty and crispy bacon. Sometimes if you put it into a hot pan, what happens is you almost seal in all of that fat. So it gives you kind of that like weird chew that you're not necessarily going for. This is gonna be the perfect texture. So I'm gonna pop that over about medium-high heat to let it start doing its thing. And again, it's gonna slowly melt out, then crisp up. So while that bacon gets to work, we wanna get to work on our pasta. So for me, with this dish, since we got those little bacon bits, and we're gonna have little bits of butternut squash, I wanna use something that's almost like a cup, something that can grab on to all of those little mix-ins. So I've got some boiling water here. And into there, we're gonna go in with some salt. Obviously, you need to season your pasta water. Everyone always talks about it. I like to do with this much water. Oh, if that one shocked you. I'm gonna do like 4 of those. Because listen, most of this water is going down the drain. Most of that salt's going down the drain. Basically, you wanna season it so if you were to taste it, it would taste a little bit salty. That way, it's actually gonna season the actual noodle and get in there with a little bit of that seasoning. But again, most of that is going down the drain. Totally cool. So I wanna add into that boiling water about 250 grams of any sort of kind of bowl or shelly pasta. I'm using orecchiette today. Orecchiette is super, super cute. Technically, it means little ears, which is very cute. They kind of look like cartoon ears more than like a human ear, but you know, always a good thing. But you could also use like medium shells. That would be really, really nice. I'm going in with about 250 grams of that. So add that right on in. And then what you want to do now is give this a bit of a stir. Anytime you're adding pasta into water, you want to give it a stir kind of immediately, because that's going to make it so as that starch kind of comes out because of that boiling process, they don't all stick together or stick to the bottom of the pan, because like, that's the worst thing. You know when you go to stir it and you're like, ugh. Ugh. We don't want that. Give it a couple stirs here and you will be good to go. Okay, I'm gonna let that pasta cook, and then we're gonna talk butternut squash. Now, I love a squash. We are in squash season. I'm very excited about it. Butternut squash is probably my go-to typically, because when you buy this squash, you're getting mostly squash. When you buy another type like a pumpkin, it's mainly just a pit. Like there's nothing going on in there. You get that squash on the outside, but nothing in the middle. This, all of the neck has full squash in it. Then you just have that little kind of base in here with the kind of seedy part. Now, when you are working with a squash, they can be a bit of a pain in the butt to deal with because you want to peel them. So there's a couple different ways you can approach this. You can grab a regular vegetable peeler and just kind of run it down the side of the squash. Super simple, but once you get to the point that this peeled part is in your hand and you're on the other side, whoo, she gets slippery. She gets slippery and things get a little dicey. So one of my favorite ways to do things is I actually get my knife. This is actually how I cut watermelon too if I'm trying to remove that rind. I cut the squash into rings, however thick I want the pieces to be. And then as opposed to actually peeling those rings, what I do is I grab my knife and I just kind of cut around. This is a little bit more tedious, but it's a lot safer. So if you're someone who's working with squash for the first time and you're a little bit nervous, if you do this, you get all of that edge off without running the risk of like slipping or something like that. So that's a really easy way to do things. But I'm not gonna lie. If you're like me, you've got an even easier hack. And that hack is, oh, damn. Okay, for anyone who didn't hear at home, a lady in the audience said, get your husband to do it, which honestly, good plan. Or you can get the grocery store to do it. They always have chopped butternut squash in the kind of weird section where you buy like tofu and things like that, and sometimes baked spinach. So yeah, grocery store or husband, you know, or wife, whoever like is ready to handle that squash. We've got 2 cups of squash there that we've chopped up. Now, as you can see, this bacon is not cooked yet, but you can see that fat starting to render out. Do you see it starting to bubble out? It's not getting golden brown yet. It's just starting to melt down. So what you would do is let that crisp up. You will end up with something that looks like this, and honestly, dinner that starts with the smell of bacon is always a good thing. So that is looking absolutely fantastic. So what I want you to do is you're gonna remove this bacon from the pan. We've got a little bit of that bacon fat left over doing its thing. But we want to set this bacon aside because we want to keep it nice and crispy. It's done its job. It's given up that beautiful fat to cook in. And we're going to leave it to just give it a little bit of a crisp later on to mix into the rest of the dish. But just to kind of bolster that, we're going to go in with a little bit of olive oil. If you wanted to, you could also go in with some butter and bacon fat. I'm not mad about that. But a little bit of oil will do the trick as well. Now into there, we're going to go in with that butternut squash. So I've got about 2 cups of this butternut squash here. That's going to go right on into the pan. Get that pan nice and hot so it's getting all sizzly. And then we're also going to add in some herbs. Now I'm going to go in with sage because 'tis the season. But if you want, you could do thyme. You could do rosemary. That would be beautiful as well. If you didn't want to use either of those and you wanted to use something like basil or oregano, a more like soft herb, I would add those later on in the cooking process because they do tend to go a little bit brown. But something like sage really benefits from a bit of a cook. It gets a bit more tender, a little bit crispy and golden brown. You want about 2 tablespoons of chopped sage. You can thinly slice it or chop it, however you're feeling. And I love a crispy sage moment. Super, super tasty. So I'm going to add that right on into that butternut squash. Scatter that on top. Add in a little bit of salt just to season it up, a little bit of pepper. And then, I don't know about you, but it's the time of year where, in my house, nutmeg emergencies happen. You know, or you go to someone's house and they're like, oh, would you like eggnog? And you're like, oh, yeah, would you want some nutmeg? And it's always a good thing. I love a nutmeg. It's super nice. It's a little bit lemony, a little bit warm, and it goes beautifully with squash. It also goes really nice with cream sauces, so anything like that. I'm going to add this in. I'm going to bring this up to the heat, and then once it comes up to heat and starts getting sizzly, I'm going to pop a lid on and let this cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. Like, look at it sizzling away. It's getting golden brown. It's a little bit creamy. Butternut squash is so good. It's a little sweet, super, super tasty. So that is looking great. The pasta's still doing its thing, but I wanted to make an additional little element to this. This is something that I do every once in a while when I'm feeling a little fancy, or if you're coming over to my house and I'm like, ooh, let's, you know, show off our pasta game. So I'm gonna make something that's called pan grattato. Now, pan grattato is basically just breadcrumbs, crispy breadcrumbs that you put on top of dishes. Really, really good on pasta, gives a bit of texture. So I've got a pan here over about medium heat. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of olive oil. Typically, I do about a tablespoon of olive oil if it wants to come out. There, oh, he's having a time. Okay, we're gonna go in with about a tablespoon of olive oil per about quarter cup of breadcrumbs. And you can use any type of breadcrumbs you want. If you wanted, you could use just the classic variety. You could literally rip up some bread for a nice crispy kind of breadcrumb. Or my personal favorite is I love a little bit of panko. Panko's great. It's all crunch. To be honest, not a lot of flavor, so you need to beef it up a little bit. Panko breadcrumbs are actually like a Japanese breadcrumb, so they're super, super crispy. It almost tastes like those little bits of tempura you get at the bottom of the tempura. Really good. I love snacking on those. So I'm gonna add that panko right on into that oil. And just to kind of mimic the flavors we've got going on with that beautiful butternut squash, I'm also gonna chop up some sage. Now, sage, again, benefits from a good long cook, but it also, a quick fry, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like a crispy little herb chip, which is a delight, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna cut that into a nice kind of julienne or a little bit of a chiffonade, which is just basically strips of an herb. Looking absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna add that right on into that panko. If you pop it into the oil, do you see it start to sizzle immediately? Like, that is flavor, that is deliciousness. I'm gonna season that up with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And while this gets to toasting and getting golden brown, I am just gonna get to work on a little bit of cheese. Now, I'm gonna go in with Parmigiano Reggiano into this dish because it's so simple, I wanna use a good cheese. But one of my favorite things to do, if I really wanna taste that Parmigiano Reggiano, I actually like to grind it up myself. I know you can buy the little tubs at the deli, but if you grind it yourself, you get way more of that cheese flavor, super, super delicious, and you get a fun little hack. You buy your chunk of cheese, you got that little bit of the rind on there. Cut that rind off, but do not throw it out. Save that little bit of rind because that added to a pot of pasta sauce is gonna bring so much richness. A little bit of soup, chicken noodle soup, chuck that in. Woo. You're out of town. It's so good. But I'm gonna grind up a little bit of this cheese. So I just pop it into my food processor just with the blade and just turn it on. Just until it grinds up. You can grind it as fine or as chunky as you like it. But honestly, this is looking really, really good to me. I do this, so it's no secret, I love a shaky cheese. I love that classic shaky cheese. But this is what I do when I'm like, okay, someone's coming over who doesn't love the shaky cheese. You get that beautiful kind of rough kind of grind, some bigger pieces, some smaller pieces. It's absolutely delicious. So that's looking great. Let's go take a look at this panko. It's getting a little bit golden brown. That sage is toasting off, looking stunning. But now we gotta put this pasta together. So the noodles have been cooking. They're nice and al dente. So I'm just gonna use, this is called a spider, but you could use like a sieve, something like that. And I'm just gonna scoop that right on into that beautiful butternut squash. Now remember, yes, there's a little bit of oil in there, but there's also some bacon fat. So this is gonna kind of emulsify. Since that pasta cooking liquid has that starch in there, it's gonna emulsify with that fat, bringing everything together. If needed, you can add another scoop or two of that beautiful pasta cooking liquid. But I'm also gonna go in with a little bit of cheese just to bring everything together. Pop that right on in. A little bit more. For a little bit of green, just for that, we're gonna go in with just about a handful or two of some baby spinach, maybe a little bit of chili flake just for a bit of heat. Looking absolutely beautiful. Adding some into there as well. Y'all, I like a little bit of heat. I like things spicy. Give that a stir, and that's gonna come together beautifully. The cheese is gonna melt, kind of give you a cacio e pepe vibe. Really, really beautiful. That spinach, as it sits in this, is gonna wilt down and get absolutely lovely. All right, that's looking great. This panko situation is looking out of control. I'm gonna transfer that into a bowl. Pop that aside just to cool just a little bit. And to serve this up, is it too hot? Nah, we can do it. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Just pop that down on your table. Don't forget about that bacon like I just did. Pop that bacon back on into there. Give that a stir, and you are in for an absolute treat. Honestly, that served up with this crispy panko right over top, like, get out of here. That looks so good. I'm very pumped about this. To me, this is a spoon pasta. A little bit more cheese on there too, because I cannot stop and I refuse to. Honestly, that looks pretty good to me. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.